welcome to my studio. And I'm wanting to build on what we did in the last class. So in the last class, if you weren't there, um, I demonstrated and I guided people through the first version of the first activity in the ICREATE, what I believe program. And that's called Just Scribble. So we worked on scribbling with our non-dominant hand and our dominant hand. And the focus I kept repeating over and over again was what feels the best. And the reason I'm asking you that is that when you activate the conscious mind, your brain automatically dumps oxytocin and dopamine into your system. So you feel wonderful, you feel glorious. And that's an indicator that those movements, that pattern that you're drawing, can help activate that part of the mind. Now, what I want to do today is I demonstrated the activity. I guided you through it several times last class. And then I started talking about how to apply it to your life. Because, it's like it's okay to learn a technique, but it needs to have an outcome. It needs to affect an outcome. One of the things I discovered, now dates me, so about 50 years ago when I was in school studying art, I discovered that what was going on inside of me was being recorded on the paper, even though I was making no attempt to do that. Give you a little bit more detail. I was working on a portrait, and in my mind, I had this image of this person, and I wanted to bring out her softness, her vulnerability, her compassion. But what I kept seeing on the paper was far harsher emotions, and in the beginning, it was like, this is really frustrating. But then I realized that by changing what was going on inside of me, changed what went on the paper. And so let's take that metaphor a little bit further here is that what is going on inside of me is registered out into the world. And that is actually what we attract. Wayne Dyer said it best. He said, we don't attract what we want. We attract what we are. So today, when we're doing the activity, I'm going to go through the activities just like we did last time, but I'm going to build on it. Like I said, is that I want you to really pay attention to what draws you into that delicious place. And as you do that, really make a mental image of it. So if going into that delicious place, is affected by you drawing horizontal lines from the right to the left or the left to the right, pay attention to that detail. If you find that your spirit is uplifted more, if you do vertically, you go from the bottom to the top or the top to the bottom. So what we're really doing here is, at least this is what my interpretation of it is that we are building our own personal Tai Chi. Every movement in Tai Chi affects the system, affects how the body either works together or doesn't work together. And so in the same way, you can extract the movements that get you to that delicious place in any situation, because that's where the application comes. Give you an example. I think I mentioned it last class, is that for many years, I spoke at conferences and workshops, and people would always see my hands moving. My hands were always in motion. What they didn't know most of the time is that was purposeful, that I had found that horizontal lines from the right to the left, but not from the left to the right, but from the right to the left, help me stay clear and focused and grounded. And circular motion, be it clockwise or counterclockwise, also affected my system in a different way. I found that the circular motion brought in just a happiness, a joy, and expandedness that I wanted to be able to project and share with others. So these movements, we're gonna start again today, doing them on paper. And so we get that we're really focused. We've narrowed things down. We're just going to be focusing on that. And then once we know what that pattern is, like I said before, the next step is to find a way to utilize it productively in our life. We're all here for a reason. We all have a purpose. And when we find that purpose and are able to implement that purpose, I think most of us feel great joy and just great joy because, we're completing what we came here to do. So what I'm going to do today, like I said, is we're going to start with our paper and our crayon. And I want you to start with your non-dominant hand. You can either take 3 deep breaths before you do the activity or not. It's totally up to you. Once again, you're designing your own Tai Chi. You're designing your own practice, the one that will keep you in touch with yourself, your authentic self, and your soul. So I'm not going to take 3 deep breaths. I'm just going to, first step for me is to close my eyes. And after my eyes are closed, I allow. Notice that I'm not saying I do, or I make happen, or I instigate. It's I allow. That's a really different approach. So I allow that hand to explore what kind of shape of line it values the most. What line brings forth the most happiness in you? So I'm going to get this up here so you can see it a little bit better. So I'm doing here is as I'm making the lines, I'm asking myself, does it feel better if I go this way? Or does it feel better if I go that way? Does it feel better if I go this way or that way? It doesn't matter what the pattern is. You're looking for what gives you the most pleasure. And as soon as you're clear on that, then switch and do the same thing with your dominant hand. And know that they could be identical or they could be extremely different. So once again, wipe the blackboard or the whiteboard clean in your mind, and then just ask yourself, what feels the best? What makes you the happiest? What makes you feel just full of joy? What helps you be your best? And before you open your eyes, you ask yourself, which hand and which pattern helped you feel the best? And once you've done that, then we will move into how are we going to implement that into our life? So Stephanie,
Yes.
what pattern and which hand uh, felt the best?
Um, the non-dominant hand, and at the moment I'm really enjoying um counterclockwise and some figure eight, like the curving lines.
Okay.
sort of like body movement, big curvy lines.
Right.
Yeah, a circular. Yeah,
So that you have a curve to it. So
yeah.
if you look at the paintings behind me, you'll see
Yes,
a lot of curved lines there.
right.
And then you also on the other one or the big one here, you will also see the addition of some straight lines. So, look at things around your house, and where do you have? Do you have if the curved lines are, really reinforcing and affirming to you,
Mm,
then look for those in your house. Where
okay.
where, do you have, if your body really resonates with curves, you don't want to be living in a house or an arrangement that has mainly straight lines. That's very counterproductive.
Mm,
So, that's the first place you can, move away from just doing it on the paper, then see how your home environment supports it, and then see how you can use it. And when you're using it, it really has to do with finding a way to keep yourself connected to your authentic nature. Or
mm,
another way of putting it is another way to stay in the now,
mm.
which would Eckhart Tolle would say, or Dr. Bruce Lipton would say, staying in the conscious mind, staying present. So that's what these activities are about, is to pull you away from distraction, pull you away from situations that don't support you, and create a rich internal uh, place to restore yourself in any given situation.
Yes.
So, so then the next step really is so we've done the activity, we have a sense of it, we are finding, does our environment support that? We're finding ways to affirm that support. But then the final step is to disguise it. Because ultimately, what I would like you to be able to do is to, I would like you to be able to use this in any situation so that you can stay encapsulated in yourself and not distracted or pulled off center by the external world. Right now we are living in a very volatile environment for the most part. There's so much dysfunction and so much upheaval happening. And that can throw us off course. And when we get thrown off course, that's when we, at least for me, that's when I feel depressed or I feel overwhelmed or I feel, I just can't deal with it anymore. But the minute that I use that pattern, I pull myself back into my authentic self or my soul. I can reconnect with that vital part of myself. And then when I move through life, be it going into a grocery store or a gas station, but when I move from that place, then I also serve as a catalyst for other people to remember that space in themselves. So you can bring, if you, by bringing that peace inside of you, you then become a catalyst for other people to find the peace within themselves.
Yeah, totally.
And so where do you feel like this could help you the best?
Um,
And if you don't
maybe
have,
just
yeah,
what's
well,
that?
I said, and if you don't have an answer, that's okay, but
Yeah. No, sometimes I work with children and helping an art teacher on the, and one of the classes in particular where I go today is very big and it's a noisy. They're quite boisterous. So
Uh-huh.
I think it would help me not be so overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, the other is that if you are working with kids and it's an art project, there's no
Mm.
there's no reason why you can't take the first few minutes of the class, getting
Yes.
them, they don't even have to have a crayon in their hand. They can just pretend they have a crayon in their hand and getting them to move it, you know? And you could even direct it so far as to say, well, let's have our imaginary crayon here and let's have it draw circles that are clockwise or counterclockwise, clockwise or counterclockwise. And then you can take it into just the really basics, the horizontal lines or the vertical lines, and ask them which one, feels the best. What you're doing is you're pulling all of them out of, disarray and dysfunction
Mm.
into themselves. And that's where the class will quiet down. They don't have
Yeah.
to be bouncing off the wall like racquetball, a ball racquetball court. They just don't have to.
Yeah. I'll ask the teacher if she'll let me do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could,
Yeah.
but you simplify it so small
Yeah.
so that, there's not a lot of words. It's just like, okay, let's do this as a group.
Yeah.
Let's do this as a group. And this is no different than something like Brain Gym, where they have you
Yeah.
doing all these different movements. But these are
Mm.
movements that they are creating because they are connecting with themselves. Now, the wonderful thing also is that, I talk about how you start on paper and then you look at your environment and then you find places to do it. One of the, and then I say you disguise it, but you also, I think it's really good to expand the movement so that you are doing it with your whole body.
Yeah.
Just think about Tai Chi. It's not like your hands are just flapping around doing this and that. Your whole system breathes and moves together. That's the point here. It's like if you can get those things to breathe and move together, everything settles down, everybody gets clear, and we can move forward more productively. So, yeah, I think you should talk to the teacher and see, ask her, you know, can you try this little technique to see if they can learn how to settle themselves down?
Yeah.
I mean, that there's a big difference between us having to settle them down
Yeah.
or an adult having to settle them down versus them learning how to settle themselves down. Now, the other part of this is that when you're doing this, when you are activating the conscious mind, you're also putting the child in a learning ready state. So that means that what they're learning is pliable. It is that they grasp it. It's integrated. It's not just something for a test. It's something for life. And when teachers start seeing that doing this can help a child be learning ready. Why are they learning ready? Because you're activating the conscious mind, conscious problem solving mind. And that's where learning happens. When you see kids bouncing off the wall and all this noise and everything, that's the reactive mind. That's the subconscious or the unconscious. And, according to Bruce Lipton, that part of our mind is just, what goes in is what comes out. It's like a video camera or a recorder, it doesn't change. And when you record something, You can't expect what you recorded to look different than what you recorded. And so that there's no thinking there. And it just means that when you're in that place, you don't have the capacity to grasp, to learn, to reconnect with your soul, reconnect with your authentic self. And when that happens, you feel the rightness of yourself. And that I feel like is really, really, really helpful. About the time that I was in school quite some time ago, that's when I started seeing that, art, at least for me, is not just about making beautiful pictures for somebody else's wall. Art has the capacity to help us find the walls, both internal and external, that are keeping us from being fulfilled. And it's a flawless system because all it does is just really get rid of all the static, all the distraction, all of the shoulds, and you're left with yourself. And that's what we want. So what I would like, we have about 8 more minutes. So what I'd like us to do is do the same pattern and do it with both hands and see if the second time round is richer than the first time. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so let's, you can close your eyes, do 3 deep breaths or not. And then what you want to do is allow. Remember, the word is allow this to happen. Start with your non-dominant because that's where we don't normally use that part so much. And so it can break the ice a lot faster than the dominant. So do your movements with your non-dominant, with your eyes closed. Keep them closed all the way through both hands. And then when you have that, switch hands and do it the other side. And then we're going to talk because I want to see if you are able to uncover any difference that you didn't in the first time.
Well, yeah, it's definitely richer and deeper and more.
Good.
Yeah. And some different, going from the bottom of the page up seems to be soothing for me at the moment.
From the bottom of the page up
Yeah.
versus the top of the page down.
Yeah.
Now, remember last class that when you discovered that, that I said, well, put your paper, your paper's flat. So if you're going from the bottom to the top, you're saying that it's more comfortable. You're more comfortable with energy going out than energy coming
Yes.
in at you.
Yes, I remember you saying that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so think about that. Just think about how, this is things you think about when you're brushing your teeth at the end of the day. Is that, you know, you don't have to give it a lot of latitude or a lot of space. It's like ponder this is. So how does that reflect in your life? Are you more comfortable giving than receiving? Are you more comfortable extending yourself, but more tentative with stuff coming in? And if that's whatever the observation is, remember that by doing this activity multiple times, that you can change that pattern. You become aware of it. You become more insightful because of it. And then you can start seeing where it can actually change in your life, bring about change. And that's what we want. We want to be able to have a tool that we can implement and use in any situation to keep our heads screwed on straight. So what I'm going to suggest is that you practice this at least once a day between now and the next class, and watch how that change, how just doing that repetition, how it takes you, deeper and more aware. And it'll also help you figure out how to approach the teacher, and to present this, so that you can start utilizing it with the children.
Yeah.
And so we've spent the last two classes working on the first version of the first activity, which is individual hands. The next class, we're going to start working with both hands together. And that's a whole different experience. And once again, we are building a repertoire of movements. We're not just doing something on paper in a really small way. When we start really grasping, our body starts grasping what we're doing, you'll find yourself bringing your whole body into the movement.
Mm.
The whole body is like, your whole body it's like a dance. Tai Chi is like a dance, it's movements. And when you refine those movements, they just become part of you, part of your way of communicating, and part of the way that you keep yourself centered and clear and on task. And nobody
Yep.
really knows what you're doing. They just know that there's some lovely, centered, and clear energy coming off of you, which is enjoyable to be around.
Yep.
So that's about it for today. And do you have any questions?
No, no, not at this point. Thank you. It's all very clear. It's good.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Okay. So we will, I will talk with you. I think well, this is the first Monday, so we're going to be on the third Monday. So it's not next
Okay.
Monday after that.
Okay, great. Thank you
Great.
very much. That's
You're very
brilliant.
welcome, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Have a good 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much.